Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending our workshop meeting held at the City Prospect Heights and Council Chambers, Monday, July 9th, 2018. Now, I was just looking around, I was a little confused because when you go like to the Bulls game or somewhere and you win something and tell you seat number 312 is going to come up and win the prize. Well, what I need to do is have someone help me with the Pledge of Allegiance. So it'll be seat number 1 in row 2. And who is that? Could you come up, please? I thought you would. Thank you. That's how we do things around here. So first of all, pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. He's fine. He can stand anywhere he wants. He's going to salute the flag. First, let me have a roll call. So yes, sir. Quorum. Okay. Stand by. All right. Roll call, please.
Okay. Alderman Williamson. Here. Alderman Ludwigson. Here. Alderman Dolick. Here. Alderman Rosenberg.
Rosenthal is here.
Rosenthal, sorry.
Rosenthal.
And I guess Alderman Musser is not here by
prior notification. She will not be here. All right, and then we'll introduce the rest of the panel after we have our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would stand, please. Thank you. Take all your baseball caps off, and we'll be all set.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
All right, now if we could have the rest of the panel introduce themselves, name and job title.
Michael Ducharme, Director of Finance.
Mark Roscoe, Superintendent of Public Works.
Peter Falcone, Assistant City Administrator.
Dan Peterson, Director of Building and Development.
Wendy Morgan Adams, City Clerk.
Joe Wade, City Administrator.
Kevin Carney, City Attorney.
Karen Schulteis, Deputy Clerk.
And last but not least,
Al Steffen, Chief of Police.
you got to know him. We also have our treasurer here.
Second to last, Rich Tibbetts, City Treasurer.
You're the last.
I'm the last.
Got it.
That's right.
I didn't want to say that, though. Okay, thank you. If we could ask Raj Mango from the Sikh Temple to do the invocation for us, please. Welcome this evening to our hallowed halls, and thank you for taking your time.
Thank you. Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here with you this evening, and I'm representing Sikh Religious Society. We have a place of worship in Palatine, and Sikhism started about 500 years ago in northwestern part of India. It is the 5th largest religion in the world, with about 20 to 30 million people worldwide. We have about 500,000 in the U.S., and maybe about 25,000 in this area. Vaheguru, that is the word that we use for one universal God for everybody. And it's not a name because Vah means wonderful. Guru is the ultimate teacher, Vaheguru. And let us all give glory to the wondrous God, because there's only one universal God that we believe in. Ik Onkar Satnam Karta Purakh Nirbhav Nirvair Akal Murat Ajuni Sahibang Gur Prasad. Meaning, there is only one God, is pure truth, the creator being, fearless, without hate, eternal, unborn, self-existent, and can be realized by His grace. Please guide our spirit to celebrate and honor the fundamental truth that each living being is a repository of the same divine light. तुधे आगे अरदास हमारी जियो पिंड सब तेरा कहो नानक सब तेरी वड्याई कोई नाम न जाने मेरा In utmost humility and thanksgiving, let us take our mind and spirit to a realm where there's light and love and God's boundless benevolence. Tu thakur tum pe ardas, jio pind sab teri ras, tu mat pita hum barak tere, tumri kirpa mein sukh ganere. You are our Lord Master. We pray to you. Our body and soul are your gift. There's immense joy and comfort in your shelter. You are our mother and father. We are your children. No one knows your bounds. You are highest of the high. Everything is held under your divine control. Your creation works according to your will. You alone know your extent, your attributes, your abilities. Says Nanak that we are ever amazed at your greatness. Let us pray that may God bless the residents of Prospect Heights, the city council members, the mayor, all supporting departments and their staff, with goodwill, foresight, strength, and courage to be able to make decisions fearlessly and judiciously, and serve the public with empathy, compassion, and justice. We pray for your blessings for a successful evening with momentous meeting of minds for meaningful outcomes. And let us not forget that serving mankind is serving God. Nanak naam chardi kala, tere bhane sarbat ka bhala. May all prosper by thy will and blessings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I might add that one of our police officers is a member of your congregation, and he's the epitome of a real nice person and the epitome of the beliefs that you just told us about. So thank you. Thank you for coming, and you're always welcome to come back anytime. All right, moving on, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item of business is the consideration of the minutes. We have the June 25th City Council regular meeting minutes, the June 25th City Council regular meeting executive session minutes, the June 27th, 2018 Chicago Executive Airport workshop minutes, and the June 11th City Council workshop executive session minutes. And if we have, do we have any additional corrections? And if we do not, I think we could do these in an omnibus motion. No corrections? Okay. May we entertain a motion for approval?
So move on an omnibus motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Which brings us to item 6. We have no presentations tonight. We have no appointments, confirmations, proclamations, no citizen concerns.
We have a resident comment.
Okay, we have one comment from
Bree
Bree
Higgins.
Higgins.
Mayor Helmer and Alderman, once again, you have put money in front of residents. It is sad to see that the people on the east side are not allowed to have quality of life, free from truck exhaust, backup horns, and such. If the residents on the east side were important to you, you would not even be entertaining the idea of having another trucking facility behind the property on 25 and 35 East Piper Lane. While in office, I heard many people say, the east side doesn't vote, so who cares? But the east side does bring in a substantial amount of money to the city in the form of city stickers, permit fees, and residential inspections. This is something you should care about. Also, while I was in office, there was an uproar from the west side residents when the council was in talks with a local pizza restaurant that was looking at a piece of property at the corner of Elmhurst because they were upset of the sounds of the trucks making deliveries early morning hours. Now you want to bring another 24-hour trucking company again to the east side. Why can't the concerns and the feelings of the residents on the east side receive as much respect from the council as the people of the rest of the city? Why can't the city come up with a committee of residents from the east side to discuss items that will be affecting them? If you learn to work with us, you will save everyone a lot of time and aggravation on all fronts. You have people raising their families who deserve the right to say what should be put on a piece of land close to their homes. I will put my money where my mouth is and be the first person to volunteer for this committee. I have given my residents the email addresses and phone numbers of all standing council members. I will be contacting the other associations and residents and giving them the same information. I am asking you to stop and take time to listen to the people that the sale of the property will be affecting. Thank you for listening, and at least one resident who calls Eastside her home.
Thank you. Moving on.
Staff elected officials and commission reports. Mr. Mayor, where would you like to start?
Well, let's start with Michael Ducharme, our very important finance director.
Just a little update for the board. For the 2017-2018 vehicle stickers that remained unpaid, there were about 1,500 tickets that were sent out to collect those unpaid stickers. In the first 10 days since they were sent out, we've collected $48,000. And 200 of those tickets needed to be voided. 201 were returned in the mail. And so far to date, we have no response from 856. For those people who have not responded, and they will be sent to collection in the very near future. And this process involved the help of both many employees throughout the village, including the police. Thanks to Al and Sherry for getting this project going, and I think the results will pay off.
Thank you.
Sir, do you mind if I ask a question based on those comments?
Go ahead.
How does that compare to collection efforts in years past?
Well, from the ones that I looked at, I think it was kind of sporadic in terms of what the follow-up was related to the unpaids. I guess the basis for the start is to obtain the information from the Secretary of State as to the cars that are registered in the city of Prospect Heights. There are years where that was done, there were years where that wasn't done. That's what started our process once we had the file, and then we moved forward. So I do believe there were years where there weren't a lot of follow-up related to it.
And is there any way we could be proactive about this rather than reactive? Is there something we could do?
Well, I think from my standpoint, the more proactive we are, the quicker we are reacting to it, the more people know that we're not going to let it go. And if in fact they do let it go, that the fines will double, and then the cost of collection will be added to it. Once they see that we're pursuing it, they'll continue to see we're pursuing it.
Okay. Thank you.
And if I might add, before we got to the ticketing process, we also had 2 letters that went to the individuals
Correct.
as well, too, so.
All right, Mr. Roscoe,
I have no report this evening, sir. Thank you.
who's next, Peter?
Yes, sir. No report today, sir.
Very quickly, it is that time of high grass and weeds, folks. The city does have an ordinance to maintain our yards, and that does include the city, county, and state right-of-ways that are adjacent to your yards. So please be a good neighbor. Our weed ordinance requires grass and weeds to be cut at 8 inches. So we've had a wet spring, so please help us and keep our neighborhoods looking good. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to the aldermen and elected officials in a moment. Karen?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank everybody who participated in the 4th of July parade. It went very well, and I think we had the most people ever show up at Hebron Church. Everybody did such a great job. Thank you.
A lot of hot dogs and
A lot of hot
watermelon.
dogs.
And it was all great, wonderful event. Thank you, Karen. All right, who do we have? Let's go with the alderman then, please. Alderman Williamson?
Hey, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
you forgot somebody.
No, I have not. You tell us what to do. You got the star. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Just a few words, if I may. One of the beautiful things about Prospect Heights is that we are the type of town where you become friends with everyone, from the folks you meet on the street to the people you do business with. Conversely, this can also have a negative context in that you have such great relationships with people, you hope that you do nothing to jeopardize such friendships. And I certainly hope with what I have to say in the next few minutes regarding the police towing situation, this will not affect these longstanding relationships. We currently have a situation regarding police towing contract, and then there really is no police towing contract. We have a system of agreements that have been built over the years, which has seen towing split amongst 3 different towing companies. Over the time that I've been chief, I've been approached by 2 of them about taking over the whole town. I kind of continue managing as it was, but it has not served everyone well, whether it be the citizens who ultimately pick up the tab, the officers who have to figure out a confusing rubric of who tows what, when, where, and how, and finally the tow companies themselves, who are all in business. They have employees, they got to make money, and they shouldn't be caught in the middle when an officer calls for a tow, and then he gets the wrong tow company, and there becomes a kerfuffle over who should have towed that vehicle. After listening to the officers, my staff, and the towing operators themselves, and consulting with City Hall staff, we decided that an RFP bid for police towing operations would serve the best interests of everyone. On May 25th, 2018, we released and publicized an invitation for qualifying companies to submit a bid for the Prospect Heights Police Towing Service, vehicle relocation, and vehicle storage contract. The bids were due at the police department on June 22nd, 2016. On June 26th, the bids which have been received have been kept hermetically sealed in Margie Bolger's desk. Were unsealed in front of Joe Wade, Margie Bolger, Deputy Chief Zalaki, and myself. 3 companies responded with the appropriate bid paperwork. They are the same 3 companies currently providing services to the Prospect Heights Police Department: Fry's Automotive, Jeans Towing, and Hillside. Jeans and Fry's both operate in Prospect Heights, Jeans as Heights Automotive. Jeans and Hillside provide tow services for a number of police departments in the area and IDOT. Fry's is an excellent company. They have a great reputation, and they're well-liked by our staff. They've been working with us since 2009, when the elected officials at that time went to them and asked them to participate in the towing process for the city. That being said, after reviewing the bid paperwork, Hillside was the clear low bidder. Now, before we go any further, there's some minutia to talk about, and I need to talk with the Hillside people. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up tonight is because of the fact that I have all 3 representatives here from each company, and they've been asking me what exactly was going on with the process, and I said that I couldn't talk to them until I actually made my report back to the council. So that being said, I'm open to any questions that the council might have.
Al, I'm of the opinion that this is entirely in your arena and up to you, and I leave the decision to you.
Thank you. Obviously, I'll be working with Kevin on this for the contract, but again, there's some minutia to work out. We have good relationships with all these companies, and I want to continue having a good relationship, but moving forward, we'll work towards consolidation. Thank you.
Anyone else, please?
Just one question.
Yes, sir.
What would be the term of the agreement you would be looking to establish?
Initially, it's a 1-year term, followed by two more 1-year terms, if everything works to everyone's satisfaction.
Anyone else? Well, I think you've got consensus, and I'm speaking for people that haven't spoken, but you have consensus. It's your operation. You're the chief, big guy, that makes decisions in your department. If that's how you want to handle it, as you laid it out, do it. Thank you for your report.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, this is after consulting with the department members and our staff, so, and I'm moving forward with this. Thank you.
All right, Joe?
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Just thought of this. We don't, is this a contract, this is probably more for Kevin, that we would enter into if we're not actually the one contracting with the transaction occurs between two other people, not between the city and the tower. It's between the tower and the individual. Is that normal to have a contract for something like that?
Yes.
You can have?
Yeah, it's normal for municipalities to engage tow companies in a bid process just to ensure that their requirements for participating in the program are met, even if if the cost is maybe borne by another.
Okay. But we have an obligation then to verify that that's being complied with, because the person who's in the transaction has no ability to question it, so we have to have something that verifies that the contract is being followed, the fees are being charged as stated. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what about priority? We're a small town, a lot of these towers, and Hillside probably has, I'm gonna assume other towns that they tow for. Are we able to work something into the contract that we're not gonna be stuck in some major event, that if they're taking care of other people, that they contractually can tell us that they have a higher responsibility to somebody else, some other town?
I don't have the RFQ in front of me. I don't know if that was that may have been included, some sort of prioritization clause in the agreement. I don't know, Chief, if that was. If not, agreements can be drafted so that that there is a response time requirements, stuff like that, so that you ensure that there's timely service, essentially. That's usually part of these agreements.
Okay, thank you.
May I?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
That was part of the minutia that I was talking about, that one of the questions that I wanted to clear up. Also, I want to make sure that everyone understands that, if this doesn't work out, I'm working with Kevin, that we can sever the contract at any time and then move on accordingly. We've had some issues in the past, and I want to make sure that all those issues are addressed before we enter into an agreement, and subsequent to that agreement, that everything works like clockwork.
Because you do have response time requirements, right?
We do.
For any event. Because it just seems like it's going to be a different world when you know it's yours versus they can call somebody else. If we have a contract with them, we can only penalize them if they don't follow the contract. We can't just pull up stakes and move it somewhere else. Right. So I think that's important that we work that out and how that's watched or graded. Thank you.
Well, again, this is, even though we're going to a contract, it's a work in progress, because the current situation that we have right now has become untenable, basically. I mean, we're trying to keep everybody happy, and we end up keeping nobody happy. So that's the situation that I find myself in.
All right, thank you, Alderman Williamson, back to you. You're good? And we were going to go to elected officials. Laura's not here. Go ahead.
I just,
report.
Yeah.
I thought we were still talking about this.
No, we're done talking about this. Go ahead.
I don't have any report, but I would like to say thank you to everybody who was involved in the 4th of July festivities, from the Rock the Runway to the parade. And, I think everything was terrific. I'm sorry I wasn't there for the getting up on stage thing, but you guys all look good up there. But, so thank you very, very much.
great, thank you. The lobster sandwiches were the best, by the way. They were really good. And we had enough trucks this year to serve everyone. All right, go ahead, Wendy Morgan.
Thank you. Again, I just wanted to thank everyone who participated in the 4th of July parade and festivities. It was a great event. There was more participation by residents and the city than I've ever seen. It was really a terrific event, even though it was very hot. So we appreciate all your help and all your participation and work. Thank you. And then I want to also say I want to thank everyone it was a wonderful Rock the Runway event, and Park District put on a great block party. City participated with that as well. So thank you again for all your efforts, and we look forward to having a great year.
Joe?
No report, sir. Thank you.
All right. I must tell you that I had to teach Governor Rauner which way to shoot. The starting gun. I think he was aiming at some Democrats in the crowd, and I said, no, you have to shoot up. And he did. He did a wonderful job. He was really a pleasure to have there. Kevin, anything you'd like to add?
No, Mayor, thank you.
All right. Alderman Rosenthal?
I too would echo both the 4th of July parade and the runway evening event was great. The only complaint I received as far as the 4th of July parade was from my grandson, who complained that we still did not have enough candy for everybody when we threw it.
All right, thank you. Alderman Dolick?
Thank you. Again, I'm most of all glad that everyone survived the heat during the 4th of July festivities. It was quite hot and humid, but wonderful job on everyone's part. I'm appreciative of everyone's involvement. I have no additional report. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Ludwigson?
Just a few things. First, I'd like to publicly admit that my wife was right. Chocolate candy doesn't work on the 4th of July when it's hot, but fortunately I had both kinds, so it worked out. The other thing is, this is for Dan. Do we have a code for standing water? There's a lot in the 4th Ward that still is holding water that's vacant, and people have been asking me.
If there's a particular property in question, we are working with that owner on a sewer system, the one over at Dale and Olive over there. They have applied for, and had engineer Perez help with the design, and we'll be putting in a portion of public storm sewer with his private to drain that property, but it's in his design phase right now.
Okay. Then the other question's for Kevin. With our city sticker ordinance, are we allowed, we're allowed to use the state list as being true and correct? We have to assume that that's true and correct.
The Secretary of State list?
Correct.
Yes.
And when we do that, when we get tickets mailed back to us because the person doesn't live there, that wouldn't invalidate that ticket. It just means that car is registered to that address, and as far as we know, it's still something that's valid, correct?
Correct. The only issue would be service.
Right.
I mean, if we're getting bounce backs for mailed citations, they haven't been served. So I wouldn't it wouldn't invalidate the citation on its face, but you would have a service issue that would need to be resolved before you could say, move on to the next step of sending it to collections.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we got everyone. Chief, you had yours. All right, let's move on, Joe.
All right, the next item is the discussion. Oh, sorry.
You know, I wrote his name down. I said, we can't forget the treasurer, and then he left the room. Mr. Tibbetts, our treasurer, has not been forgotten.
I just have one comment. I'd just like to thank the city for the opportunity of participating in the Prospect Heights weight loss program during the 4th of July parade, because I lost 2 pounds that day, providing the sound system and the heat and all that stuff. And I will take a little bit of credit also. I think I had a microphone and I was inviting people along the way to go to Hebron Church for the hot dog lunch. So maybe that worked. I don't know. I wasn't taking, attendance really, but it was an interesting time and a good time for all. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I might add, I believe our attendance in the evening for fireworks and band and food probably was in the 15 to 20,000 person range. And the reason I say that is if anyone's been to the Bulls game, you know that the stadium holds 14,000 people. Well, there are a lot more. I tried to segment them mentally, and it seemed like there was at least a stadium and a half or more sitting out there. So it's become a popular event, and it's become a fun event. So we had a good time. All right, thank you. Joe?
Next item, discussion topics for workshop meetings, and for, carried over from the prior workshops, we have the home rule discussion, and new items are organization and operation of city council and city investments.
And are we discussing now, or is that what's on the topic list?
Yes, that's what, I think recently we also asked to move these items up in the agenda.
All right, who wants to start? We can talk about home rule. Anyone? I recently circulated a memo from a person that, I think we all remember that the council decided that really none of us on an individual basis were qualified enough to bring the home rule issue to a fully understandable situation, especially noting that this is not a taxation issue. So I did meet with, I forgot his name now, but I circulated his email, and it seems like that's the type of person we need that's going to explain what home rule is all about, what cities use home rule for, and in our case, my thrust, and I think the council's thrust, is going to be mainly for, or much for, the flooding and the water problems we have, flooding and drainage. So those facts have to be put out to the public. When we talked about, and Alderman Williamson, I'm sure Alderman Ludwigson remembers, when we went, when the referendum went up for road repairs, everybody knew that it was a necessary item. There are too many potholes. There are people actually getting injured in our potholes. And some people refer to us as the pothole city in the northwest suburbs. And the people understood that. And they voted for the referendum, and we got the roads done. And I think the flooding issue and the drainage issue, I think everybody knows, at least somebody, that got flooded themselves or other people. And I think they would understand that if we target that issue, among others, because I think Alderman Williamson, Treasurer Tibbetts, you mentioned that we're losing about $750,000 a year from the state because we don't have home rule. Have I got that right?
Pretty close.
Thank you. So those are the issues we have to let people know about. When we have doomsday sayers, oh, that city is going to go broke, they don't know what they're doing, and they allow things to happen that shouldn't happen, et cetera. None of that is true. We want to do the best thing we can for our citizens, and I think we're doing that. And home rule is an issue that I think we have to have. For those of you that don't know, home rule means that you can run your city. Non-home rule means that the state tells you what to do. Simply put, there's a lot of ancillary things that come along with that. So the problem there is that you need 25,000 people citizens in a city, which then they automatically become home rule eligible. They can go to home rule. Anything less than that, we have 16,250 people approximately, give or take one or two. We can't do that. We have to live by state regulations. We have to do what the state tells us. We have to pay, for things that the state should be paying for, and therein lies the issue. So I'm really interested in working with someone, and I think I found that person. The council has to decide that, not me, that we can work with to get the proper information to people and what it's really all about. And this whispering, oh, they just want to raise taxes, simply not true. Simply not true. We've done well without raising taxes, but we have not done well with certain issues. Potholes were one of them. Now drainage and flooding is another, and it's a big issue, and I think we have to address it. And the only way we can address it is through grants, and we try to work for grants, but it's a lot of money to try to do that. We can't raise that kind of money. And if we have home rule, we will be more eligible for grants, and we will be more eligible to be able to do things for our citizens, just by virtue of the fact what we can do rather than what we can't do. So if someone wants to chime in, I'd be happy to listen. Alderman Rosenthal.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with what you're saying as far as home rule is concerned. The last one in 2012, before I was on the city council, I worked for it. We have achieved positive votes, continual positive votes toward a majority, but we've never hit a majority yet, obviously. I like the idea of bringing in someone, as you suggested. I think it would be a good idea if we arrange to have a meeting with that individual so that we can talk with him more directly and find out some more specifics as what can be done. That's my thing, but I'd like to be able to have the council, I would recommend that the council would be, have the opportunity to meet with that individual.
Well, that's the given, because the council has to make the decision, and they're not going to, they don't have the opportunity to meet with anyone, they're not going to be fully aware of what can be done and what should be done. Anyone else?
If I could.
Yes, sir.
If I could just make a quick comment. First of all, this is very valuable information that you left with us by Mr. Thacker, and I think he would be a great candidate to guide us in this. I do agree with Alderman Rosenthal's comments about meeting with him. I think that would be very beneficial. My one question that I would put out as an open question to the rest of the council, it's been suggested to put it on the November ballot. Do others think that that gives us enough time to prepare and educate the public on what this really means? I mean, we're already well into July. That's not very much time. And I'm not, by saying that, I'm not certainly not opposed to putting it on the November ballot, but do others think that that's enough time to get the information out there and have town hall style meetings with the public?
Well, I personally felt that it was too quick. On the other hand, when I read the email we received, the letter we received, it made a lot of sense the way it was written. And he assured me, and I met with him personally also, that we have just barely enough time to get it on the ballot. And this is the time to do it, not wait for a general ballot for president or governor or anything like that. This election coming up in April in 2019, we have to have it on the ballot by the end of August. I don't remember exactly the date, but probably August 31st, somewhere like that.
August 9th.
So I think you're right. The sooner we can set up a meeting, the clearer, his message becomes as to why we should have it now, why we should hustle in the right way to get it on the ballot for the next issue, which is the November issue. Our terms expire in April of next year, 2019. So I'm talking about the November issue, November ballot. And that has a deadline of August 31st to get it on that ballot, to get the issue on that ballot. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Go ahead, Wendy.
Oh, I think that this Mr. Thacker can explain to us what we need to do and how we can be able to implement the aspects of the campaign, as he says, from the beginning to a successful conclusion, and how we can set up the town hall meetings and all of these things. I think we need to meet with Mr. Thacker within the next week if we're going to have enough, and be able to ask him the questions and get the answers we need, if we're going to be able to vote and have enough information to do so by, what is it, the August 9th meeting date? So I think if we can do it, how quickly can we do this? Do we know?
Mayor,
Yes, Yes, go
Just the deadline for, if the council passes a resolution to place it on the ballot is August 20th.
August 20th.
So, would call for a special meeting, I think.
That's what I'm
and,
asking.
Maybe by our next meeting on the 23rd of July would be the time to take the vote. So now it's a question of who we can get to come or are able to come to our meeting. And I'll check with him when he's available. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I mean, to address Alderman Dolick, the way I read that, this is very loud. The way I read that, it really was, I thought it was kind of, let's throw it out there, engage the temperature of the water, and see how it comes back. And then you, of course, you formulate your plan after you see what those results are. You know, who knows? Maybe it passes, maybe it doesn't. But I don't think there was much of an educational process tied to putting it onto the November ballot. I hope that answers what you were, or provides you with what you were looking for. Outside of that, it's my understanding the city proper can't hire anybody. Is that correct, Counselor?
Yeah, the city can't spend money on advocating. They can spend money to inform the public, provide fact sheets, FAQs for the benefits and I guess drawbacks, for lack of a better term, of home rule. That's why this gentleman suggested setting up special citizen committees, filing with the state, because any sort of advocacy work would have to be done outside of not using city resources.
Correct. Meaning we cannot use city staff. We can use, you know, we as council members can certainly do what we want on our, you know, on, as a resident.
Correct, yeah, city council members can do what they want as city's residents, just as long as they're not using city resources. City staff can't work on it during business hours, but they can do it on their own time.
Don't use
that
city
sort of thing.
paper,
And-
don't use.
But the city can spend money to inform the public. That is an informative process. The city can do it, it just can't spend money to advocate for one outcome or the other.
Correct. And Mayor, going back to, was it 2012, I believe it was, 14? I don't remember the exact date that we put it on there as a referendum last time. But prior to that, we were working with Seraphin and Associates. And I thought they did a terrific job. And a lot of that information, especially for the short haul, we have. And to redistribute that, I think we made big gains last time. I thought it was good information. And like I said, for the short haul, I think it'd be a good idea to reuse some of that. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but, you know, to get Mr. Thacker in here so that we can make a decision to put a referendum question on by August 29th, I don't know that it's that pressing to get him in here, but moving forward, I think that it's a good idea.
Thank you.
I just want to, if I
Yes,
just
go
want to
ahead.
respond to that. I didn't get the impression that Mr. Thacker was saying, just throw it on the ballot. I mean, there was some comments that he made that you could do that, but I think that certainly that he was encouraging there to be education, and since the city can pay for education and information, I think that they certainly could, you know, they could utilize things that were done before, like was done by Seraphin, and also new information that he could provide or assist us with in obtaining and working on these committees with. So I think that there can be town hall meetings. I don't think it makes sense just to put it on the ballot and see where it goes.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know what he's going to do. I think it doesn't hurt to have him in here to tell everybody, you know, his plans.
Right.
You know, he obviously has a long, impressive resume.
If I could make one
Yes, sir.
additional comment. I agree, getting whatever information we have currently out to the public, I'm certainly for that. Correct me if I'm wrong, it can be placed on a ballot once every 2 years, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. If it fails, there's a 2-year gap
Okay.
between when it can be placed on the ballot again.
And my only concern with that is I've heard, just in trying to research this and from a few sources, that when something, a referendum is put on the ballot repeatedly, that its likelihood of passing tends to go down and not up. I don't know if that would be the case here, but I wouldn't want to just put it on just to see what it does, and if it doesn't pass, we'll just, every 2 years or however you decide to do it. I think it would be better to have a good plan and put it on based on that plan the first time. I don't know how others feel, or if that's type of statistic is
Well,
accurate, but
I'm sorry, just to correct what you said, the 3 times we had it on the ballot, it grew by 2 or 3 points each time. It didn't regress. So.
but there was a gap, at least in some of those, that it was a gap of time before it was placed on the ballot again. So yeah, I'm just bringing that up as a point of concern. I'm not saying that we shouldn't go that route, but it was just a concern.
Well, I think the key is informing people what home rule is all about.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they don't understand it.
I agree.
And to get that done, whether it goes on this ballot or next time, if we're going to get serious about this, we have to educate ourselves. We have to have someone help educate us. And much like the towing situation, maybe we choose from 2 or 3 people that do that kind of stuff. But I haven't been able to find anyone. This gentleman I know from our business, and he has got a good background. So I'd like to pursue the learning process, if nothing else. Let's not focus on when it should go on the ballot. Let's focus on learning about home rule and how it should be put on a ballot in future endeavors. Alderman Ludwigson?
Yes, I don't think that November is too fast, because home rule, it's not like nuclear fission or something like that. It's a very simple set of parameters of what we can do and what we can't do as a municipality that we're asking the public for the authority to do. So I don't think November is too quick a time, because really home rule could be reduced to an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. But I think it's, I don't want to use the word convincing, but it's you know, Prospect Heights is very aware of what home rule is. I mean, each time it's come out, this room has been filled with people, both sides of the argument for and against it. So it's not as if Prospect Heights is new to home rule. It's probably, of all towns, I think Prospect Heights residents as a whole understand it more than any surrounding area.
You're saying that Prospect Heights hasn't had any turnover in the last 6 years or 8 years then?
No, I mean, if you had 20% turnover, I mean, even 30%.
It's a lot of turnover.
That's still 70% of the people that have been through this process before. So it's you know, I think people understand it. I think it's a matter of you know, answering questions they might have. Putting it out to the people. We have newsletters, we have e-news, we have a television station, we have these meetings. There's no excuse for us not to be able to get the information out there. It's a matter of answering questions that they have, and I think November is fine to do it, and I think we have to ask it every 2 years, because if something happens where we don't ask it and, you know, we're not collecting this money, I would not want to be the person, the money for that the residents don't pay that would come into Prospect Heights from home rule, which is, you know, in the neighborhood of $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a year, which since 2012 would be about, could be as much as $5 million that we haven't collected. None of it would have come from the residents of Prospect Heights. So we have to point out that we're losing that. I think that's probably the biggest thing we have to point out, is what we're losing, not what it's going to cost somebody, because as we would implement it, it wouldn't cost anybody. But I think we have an obligation to ask the people if they want it every 2 years. I think it should be something every non-home rule community should be putting on their ballot, just to reassure themselves that, hey, I told you we could collect this money. It's not from the residents. And, you know, if we get into financial hardship, you know, they need to know that that's available to them so that they could approve it to collect that money.
Pat, now we've gone full circle. Now we're back to the first conversation we had about this, short of saying, you know, putting a date to it. But we're talking about that education process and letting people know,
you know, what we are losing out on. And, you know, short of the introduction of Mr. Thacker, we're back on the same plan we were at. I thought that was a great plan. I thought the education of it, you know, was fantastic. I think that you have 2 solid opportunities to hit every house in Prospect Heights and let them know what home rule is, let them know what the pros and the cons are, you know, before a November election. You know, you have plenty of time for town hall meetings. You know, unfortunately, you couldn't, you know, it didn't happen before the, say, the block party, where you just have a gathering of people who can chat about stuff. But I'm not opposed to letting it be on a November ballot.
Thank you. Treasurer Tibbetts was next.
I'm glad to hear everybody speaking a little more positively than we have in the past about this as far as the November election is concerned. I think, as I recommended right off the bat, I think that's the target that I had in mind. But I also sent an email to everybody a couple weeks ago, and I think I made my point in that, and I'd really like to read it into the record, so to speak, because I think it's something that the public needs to hear. So what I said to you all is that in light of the recent and significant rain events and flooding issues in Prospect Heights, it seems to be a renewed topic of concern for our residents that ties into a real need for home rule authority. We don't have the resources to fix all the known problem areas, never mind those that are unknown or cause for future infrastructure and expenditures. We constantly talk about capital investment programs for flood control that extend years into the future. In the minutes of the last meeting, well, it was really the workshop meeting, it states that there was discussion as to what would motivate electors to vote for home rule. Well, this is one. Just about everyone recognizes the need to address the issue, and we have discussed how significant revenues can be increased with home rule power that does not involve property taxes. This argument does not take months and years of education to make a case. It's fairly obvious. The November election is a good time to see if this issue alone can motivate voters to take action. It is something proactive voters can do to help solve this particular problem sooner than later. And this election cycle offers the community a good opportunity that for practical reasons will not come along for 2 more years. That will put this in the hands of the newly elected city council. There can be a lot of rain events between now and then. If this council decides not to act, the calendar date may change, but the problems stay the same. And I think that makes my point.
Thank you. Alderman Rosenthal?
Just one comment. I initially was concerned about November and the time frame that it would have in terms of getting things organized and moving forward. However, the gentleman's paper had some very compelling points as to a rationale as to why we should go with November. So I basically have gone along. I agree now, with based upon what he has written to us, that we should be going ahead with November.
All right, thank you. Anyone else before we make one quick decision? That is to have a special meeting within the next 10 days.
Yeah.
Are we have consensus on trying to get that done?
Yes. Yes.
We have some yeses down there at this end. Alderman Williamson?
Yes.
And Laura Messer will be our chairman. That's always you name someone that isn't here. No, she'll do a good job, too. All right, what's next, Joe?
Next item is...
Yes, sir.
Sorry, before we move on, Alderman Rosenthal,
Yes.
do you want to go through your points of discussion about the topic, or do you prefer to
Well, I think
hold off for now?
we've pretty much covered it, particularly point number 1, which talks about the individual and what his scope will be and what he will do. We'll come forward with that. I think the point number 2, who will be the lead person for the city, is a point of discussion that we'll have to have at some early on if we're going to have something like that. And then the roles of us as elected officials, where it's articulated by legal counsel, and what we can do and what we can't do. And I got the sense here that nobody is opposing this. So that takes care of the last focus question I had.
All right, then you wrote an email just, I believe yesterday or the day before about point B, and I think it's a little premature if we try to talk about it tonight. Am I right?
Are you referring that to me, sir?
I am, yes. You're
A point-
very articulate, long email.
Which one were you talking about now?
Organization and operation of city.
Yeah, that is something that we, as a council, need to address in some
Right.
form.
Okay. And then city investments, whose was that? Who asked for that?
I did.
Okay, you're the man.
Every day.
But not tonight.
I had a conversation today with Director Duchesne and with Mr. Administrator Wade regarding this. My feeling is that we should be looking at, on a regular basis, the investment portfolio that we have as a city. And since we are contributors to the police fund, we should be getting a regular report as terms of status from that investment counselor, and also having a representation from the police pension board itself as part of that presentation. The questions I raised basically need to be answered by those individuals raised there. My questions basically were, what are restrictions that we have, statutory and legal, as to what we have to do to manage our investments as a city? What can the city do as far as investments are concerned that we are not doing at this point? And the question really comes down to how much do we have available to invest at this point? And finally, for me, it's important to know how we're measuring the performance of these investments. Typically, in my experience, that's done through benchmarking particular funds against some identified particular benchmarks, so that we can see, are we effective? Are we earning what we should be earning? If we're not, why not? And what can be done about that?
All right, so we'll keep those items on our future discussion.
I would recommend, Mr. Mayor, that perhaps as an action item coming out of this, we invite the investment manager, I believe his title is, for the police fund, and then Director Duchesne for the city, for us to have a discussion at some point that is reasonable for them, because there's some information that is not readily available that they have to gather. And at some point in time, we have that as an agenda item in a future workshop. Carry it on the agenda books at this point.
All right, and we'll work on that.
Just a quick comment on that.
Yes, sir.
It's not necessarily about, I think Alderman Rosenthal's comments are mostly about what we can gain from our investments. I think, having been here for a long time and seeing at times when interest rates were really high and now they're really low and they're trying to climb back, to me, it's more important that we keep what we have. I think we've been hurt more by not bad investments from the standpoint of low return, but just bad investments where they've gone bad. They've hurt us more than rate has. So I know that everybody's worried, it's important when you have, we don't have a lot of money. We have about $6 billion worth of capital improvement money, and I think the police pension might have $12 million. So we're not Arlington Heights or anything that our move of our money makes a difference with return, but I think it's more important that we talk about making sure that we preserve it, because we've had some bad luck with that.
All right, thank you, Joe. We have a consent agenda, but there is nothing under that item, right?
No items tonight, Mr. Mayor.
All right, let's move on.
12 is a tabled item from the previous meeting. And 13, we have new business. The first item under new business is A. This is an ordinance granting a special use permit for 411 North Wheeling Road. This is St. Alphonsus Parish, and this was for an electronic messaging center sign. They have asked if we could waive first reading. They've asked for adoption at tonight's meeting. And it did receive a recommendation from the Plan Commission Zoning Board.
All right, can we get a motion to waive first reading for the signboard for St. Alphonsus Church?
So move.
Second?
We have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Now let's go ahead and approve the sign for St. Alphonsus Church with our second reading. Motion to do that, please.
So move.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Joe?
Item B is a staff memo and ordinance amending an existing special use permit for a drive-through restaurant. This is McDonald's at 1200 North Milwaukee Avenue. It's only first reading tonight. And like many other McDonald's, they're asking for an additional drive-through lane. They have, as their business has changed, more and more people, as a percentage of their business, people are using the drive-through lane. And the second, having the second menu board and order placement allows them to address their customers quicker. It shortens up the queue. So they've done this at a number of stores in the area, and they're asking to amend their special use to allow the second drive-through lane and at this location.
Tonight, we have a representative from the team that presented to the PZBA here. If there are any questions related to the engineering, Joe? Joe Kirschner is here this evening, should there be any questions. Big issue was on traffic flow. The reduction of parking, however, it still meets code, and everybody seemed fine with the answer. So Joe is here to answer any questions should the
Joe,
alderman
would you
have any.
step up to the podium, identify yourself and the purpose of your visit?
Good evening. My name is Joe Kirchner. I'm with Lingle Design Group. We are the architectural firm representing McDonald's tonight.
All right, so we have McDonald's representative here, and we are going to, we don't have a problem with the parking spaces being eliminated, Dan?
Correct. The reduction from 50 to 44 still keeps the McDonald's in code compliance. It allows for them to reconfigure the drive aisle accesses to permit the second drive-through and clean up some of the traffic flow at the Palatine frontage, is what the testimony from Lingle Design Group was at the PZBA hearing.
Questions, anyone? So you can get your hamburger faster and eat it on the run. People simply just don't go in and, as you pointed out today, Joe, and sit around and eat. And not like Panera, for example. A lot of people go there to do that.
Yep.
They come up to the window, they want their hamburger, and they want to say goodbye. And this will facilitate more sales, which is good for us, too.
Correct.
So thank you for coming.
You know, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
As a user of that location, you won't be able to pull in off of Palatine frontage to that then, will you? You'll
That's
have to go
correct.
around?
That's correct. We have to wrap around the building.
Okay.
One more?
Just a side along with this. In our ordinance, there will be a text amendment coming forward to the Plan Commission from the city because we have a redundant text amendment process. We have a text amendment special use, a special use requirement for the drive-through lanes, but then we also have a secondary special use process for menu boards, and it's limiting. So this will allow McDonald's to get started with the process while we go through the signage text amendment and come up with the new guidelines for menu boards.
And that'll be citywide then?
Correct.
Guidelines for menu boards will be citywide then?
Correct. There's no sense granting a special use for multiple drive-throughs when our code needs you to get a special use to grant one menu board, so.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Those are the business items tonight, Mr. Mayor. We do have the consideration of the warrants, item 14.
We have about C.
C, 13C.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. This is just a formality. This is the resolution authorizing the transfer of $300,000 from the Tourism District Fund to the General Fund for Apple Drive and Winkelman Road repairs. And that, as discussed at the budget meeting, was also brought before the Tourism Bureau, was recommended from the Tourism Bureau. And we are on track to have this work done along with all the other resurfacing projects throughout the city this year.
We don't need a motion for that, do we?
Yeah, it's a
Or I mean,
resolution.
a voting motion.
It's just, you would do a motion to approve the
All right,
resolution as
okay.
presented.
What I meant was, we don't need a second reading.
Oh, no.
Okay,
No.
let's have that then.
Make a motion, we
Motion
approve.
approved, we need a second.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Williamson?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 to transfer $300,000 from the Tourism Board to the General Fund.
And now that brings us to item 14, approval of the warrants.
So we have expenses for the period, regular expenses of $96,718.69. The July 6, 2018 payroll posting of $153,420.64. The Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund of $18,893.79. And total warrants of $269,037.12.
Motion to approve the warrants as presented.
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
Any further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second, we have a roll call.
Alderman Williamson?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Do we have any resident comments, non-agenda matters?
We do not.
None submitted. And we are requesting an executive session tonight, and city attorney can address that.
Thank you, Joe. It's adjourned to executive session pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act to discuss the sale or lease of property owned by the public body and the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. Can I have a motion?
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
We can do a voice vote? here?
Correct.
Voice vote, please, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned from this meeting. We will go to the executive session meeting and my conference room upstairs. And who is participating in that, Joe?
There'll be council and needed staff.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, will there be action after the meeting?
No, we don't plan any action, so you don't have to sit around and wait. We're done. There will be no